Hello, my name is Shirley Self, and I'm here to talk astrology. Tonight I wanted to talk about Edward Snowden. You've probably heard of him. He's the whistleblower on the NSA and their avid collection of all of my data and your data. And this NSA was national security. It was instituted by the Bush administration after 9/11. And it's hard to say whether they're making us more secure or more paranoid. But anyway, I wanted to talk about Edward Snowden. He's just published a book called Permanent Record. And I haven't read it yet, but I probably will because I really like biographies. Although at, how old is he? 30, 36, something like that. He was born in 83. He's a baby. But a lot has happened to him, and it's probably pretty interesting. Right now, he's holed up in Russia, a place he did not particularly want to end up, but there he is. And so I wanted to talk about, there's a lot of controversy of what motivated this young man. Is he a criminal? Is he a hero? And so I wanted to talk about him in terms of his moon phase and his horoscope, because his horoscope very much says the same thing the moon phase says. This is Yeats, W.B. Yeats' system of the reincarnational journey of the soul. And in this journey, our young man, Edward Snowden, he was born at moon phase 11. Moon phase 11 is an initiation phase in the middle of the water quarter. It is one of these powerful phases of 1925 and 5, the revolutionaries, the rebels. They're very difficult. As Yeats said, the initiation isn't a one-shot thing. Initiation for these people goes on their whole life because it's a deepening. The thing about moon phase 11 is that it's the discovery of Persephone. And Persephone is, if you remember the myth, Persephone is taken down into hell, or into the Plutonian realm, and raped by Pluto. And she was mourned by her mother Demeter, and that mourning caused winter. And it was negotiated that she spend half her time with Pluto and half her time with Demeter, so that we have summer and winter. So anyway, Persephone indicates, Persephone virtually is the light in the body. And that's what a moon phase 11 is all about. A moon phase 11 will go along in their life until some terrible event happens to them and forces their emotional nature to go meet with Pluto, virtually. And it's there that it is discovered that God is within me. That's where you discover the God within, or the truth of yourself within. And the logical mind, and that's what happens to the lunar mind. The logical mind, the solar mind, is left bereft, and then has to be forced by circumstance and futility to go seeking for that connection with the lunar nature, and has to go into solitude, virtually, and analyze and think and sink into the truth of oneself. Sink into the truth. And that's where the logical mind has what it has to do in order to make connection again with the emotional mind, which is truly the guidance. The emotional mind, water, is the guidance through this whole second quarter. That's what you're doing in the second quarter, is you're learning to control and utilize the emotions. And so he's one of this power rectangle, and the creative genius of this rectangle is the powerful moon phase 19, who the politician who has an idea and inflicts it on the rest of us, sometimes to our betterment and sometimes to send us off into hell, which was, anyway, I won't go into politics right now. But the moon phase 19 is powerful out in the world. And that's the creative genius. That's the inspiration and the goal of a moon phase 11. So let me show you Edward Snowden's horoscope here. And let me give you the info on that horoscope. Is that good? Okay. He was born 21 June 1983 in Elizabeth City, North Carolina at 4:42 a.m. Now, probably the first thing you'll notice there is that packed first house. Well, the ascendant. He's got 3 planets and the North Node in Gemini. He's a Gemini ascendant. And if you'll notice that Sun is in opposition to Neptune. And that's somebody who has to deal with deception. It's interesting to me that the United States has okay, the Sun is not only in opposition to Neptune, but so is that Mars. And the United States has a great affliction of a Mars-Neptune square, which makes us incapable of keeping our promises and succumbing to propaganda and other very, very, very difficult things to deal with. And so Edward Snowden was born having to deal with deception. And the interesting thing about it, he's got a moon Venus square, and this is a partile waxing square. They're only a minute apart, or only a degree apart, and that just speaks to the trauma that sends a moon phase 11 down into it's the rape. It's a rape. Pluto stealing Persephone. It's Scorpio squared to Leo. And some trauma, emotional trauma, in his early years, and notice here the Chiron, and Chiron is your trauma. It's the wound that sets you on your path, and this Chiron is ruled by the Venus, that wounded Venus, and it looks like it's a wound by a parent or somebody. Somebody who was trusted. Anyway, the wound that is over there in the Chiron, and that Chiron in the 12th. Now the wound is to the Venus, to one's self-worth or natal capacities. Venus rules your talents and your desires. And so that Chiron's over there in the 12th, in the house of martyrdom. Yeah, 12th is the house of martyrdom. And Chiron in the 12th is a martyrdom. So that right there speaks to a moon phase. The Persephone story in the moon phase 11. Now, that Mars in the first house is very self-assertive, and he's got a Mercury there, and they're opposed to the Jupiter, Uranus over here. If I can find, there it is, and as well as the Neptune. It's all opposed, and that because it's Gemini, And the Mercury is in Gemini. It rules Gemini. This is a very aggressive and brilliant mind. And I'll bet the book is, I hope it's up to their standards, because moon phase 11s have a way with words. Yeats called it the ability to convince others. It's rhetoric. So I'm expecting the book to be quite readable. But notice over there that the South Node, he started out as your average spy, I guess a brilliant but average spy. He started out working for the CIA, and that South Node conjunct Neptune over there in the 7th house, and we've got a very aggressive spy over here in the 1st house. So he started out, but some shock to the system, just noticing the methods of the CIA, and then noticing the avid collection of your data, my data, his data, everybody's data, by the NSA, was a shock to his system. He's got that Chiron, and the Chiron's conjunct Vesta. Now, Vesta has to do with, well, devotion and truth and sacrifice. And so does Chiron in the 12th. So we have a martyr here but he did what his North Node told him to do. Now, doing your North Node, trust me, it's going to be the difficult thing. The habitual thing is the South Node. Doing your North Node is not that easy, although it looks like with a Sun Mars there, that he probably knew what he had to do the minute he noticed what was going on. But and it's interesting to me that his Mars is on the United States Mars. It's 2 degrees off, and the nodes, the United States nodes, the ascendant descendant. The United States ascendant is the Sibley chart, which is the one I'm particularly fond of. The Sibley chart, the ascendant is 12 Sagittarius, which our hero here has it on the descendant, and so his ascendant descendant are just the reverse, exact reverse of the U.S. ascendant descendant, and it gives him, well, it makes it matter to the United States what he does. His North Node is on our Mercury. His North Node is on our Mercury. The North Node says that, yes, this iconoclast has to speak up. He may have spent a lot of time thinking it over, doing that Chiron in the 12th, but he has to speak up. His creative genius, his moon phase 19, you know, that powerful moon phase 19, his creative genius is that Pluto-Saturn in Libra right there. That's his creative genius. And his body of fate will be up here on his, and that's Juno. And when I see Juno, I always think of the miserable relationship, you know, that Juno had with her husband, and the faithless husband. So this partnership that Snowden was in was a faithless partnership, and it looks to me like the government let him down. He didn't let them down. It's their fault for hiring an iconoclast. He was just doing what they're supposed to do, which is to say, that emperor has no clothes, or to say, the NSA is stealing your data, stealing all your messages. And that's, he didn't have much of a choice. The Chiron, the Mars, the North Node, the Sun, all said that this guy had to do what he had to do. The Pluto, the Saturn, showed how thorough it was, and how powerful an impact it made on this United States and the world, virtually the world. Well, let's see if there's anything else. Moon phase 11, they're supposed to speak the truth. They see the truth. They know when they see the truth. That's what you do when you spend the time alone, like Snowden has to do with his Chiron, is you develop a gut feeling for what's true and what's false. And so they're obliged. They don't all do it, you know. Every moon phase has a sneaky way of avoiding its work. It always catches up with you sooner or later, but you can avoid it a little bit. Snowden didn't. He did his job, and I appreciate his work, and I'm hoping that he gets to come home and be a free man. So that's Edward Snowden, and that's about all I have to say for you tonight. I'll do more on the other horoscopes as they become interesting. It'll be interesting to see who the Democratic nominee will be, because I have a couple of them I don't have the birth times for, and so they're more difficult. But I have Biden's, so we'll see. We'll see. And I'm praying that you're surviving the difficulties of the time, and may the God and Goddess be with you. Good night.